Hey, if you haven't seen part one and part two of this series, we're walking through Project 2025 using this tracker. They're halfway done with this, and I have a lot more for you, unfortunately. In part one, we covered all of these, and in part two, we covered all of these.
Let's go.
The Department of Justice.
The full grand jury never saw the indictment that was returned against Jim Comey.
Information that has come for information. There's information new information, additional information.
If the death penalty's on the table, pursue that shit all the time. We gotta stop here real quick and just read sections of Trump's letter on this because it's wild. Remember, this is on the official White House website, which is a clown show if y'all haven't seen it since he got back in office. He basically turned it into a meme factory that makes us look like idiots on the world stage. Quote, our founders knew well that only capital punishment can bring justice and restore order in response to such evil. End quote. Our founders were slave owners. I don't know why we're looking up to them at all, but if you want to go that route, you should probably check out what James Madison had to say about it. Quote, I should not regret a fair and full trial of the entire abolition of capital punishments by any state willing to make it. They didn't agree on most things, including the death penalty. Trump also said this, quote, on December 23rd, 2024, President Biden commuted the sentences of 37 of the 40 most vile and sadistic rapists, child molesters, and murderers on federal death row. Remorseless criminals who brutalized young children, strangled and drowned their victims, and hunted strangers for sport. He commuted their sentences even though the laws of our nation have always protected victims by applying capital punishment to barbaric acts like theirs. End quote. I rarely read this much to y'all, but trust and believe I read an entire academic paper on why that statement betrays how Trump, his Attorney General Pam Bondi, and every other MAGA sees the death penalty. They see it as punishment for the level of offense in a crime, while Biden saw offenses as federal or not federal. Biden did commute the sentences of rapists and murderers to life without the possibility of parole. They're not getting out of prison, but he left 3 people off his commutations: the Boston Marathon bomber, the Charleston church shooter, and the Pittsburgh synagogue shooter. All 3 are terrorism, and 2 of them are racial hate crimes. Biden drew a very precise line between which crimes make sense on a national scale for the federal government to execute people for, and which ones belong on the state level. He doesn't oppose the death penalty. He opposes it in most cases. States killed a lot of people under his watch. This was about the country. On the other hand, Trump pushed through the executions of 13 federal death row prisoners at the end of his first term. There was no rationale used besides which crimes made him and his team feel the worst. That's not a template that anyone else can follow, because it's completely subjective. If anything, that's the point I've been trying to make about their execution of Project 2025 so far. The shit is beyond reinforcing Republican ideals. It's mean and callous and lacks any kind of rationale or empathy. If y'all read even half as much of it as I have, one theme comes through loud and clear. They want to eliminate as many resources and lifelines as possible for poor people and immigrants so you can die. I'm not exaggerating or fear-mongering. They want y'all to die. Yes, including white people. I don't know how to be more clear than that. I apologize for the depressing sidebar. Back to the DOJ. This administration wants to keep the government out of correcting any misinformation, disinformation, or malinformation. In their own words, quote, the federal government infringed on the constitutionally protected speech rights of American citizens across the United States in a manner that advanced the government's preferred narrative about significant matters of public debate. Government censorship of speech is intolerable in a free society. It's tough for a democracy to function when the integrity of public information is threatened. The Trump gang just wants anybody to be able to say anything, anywhere. You know why? Because that's what got him elected. Any situation where a man who got himself banned from the worst site on earth starts pushing the whole country to be more like him is not good, fam. Him and his bestie Elon were still buddy-buddy when this got pushed out. So I feel like Musk got his racist retweets fact-checked one too many times. Focus. I'm never gonna get through this. Y'all ever heard of Humphrey's Executor? It's a 1935 court case that established federal agencies' right to independence from the executive branch. Project 2025 wants to end that, and Trump's administration has already made the move to challenge it in lower courts. Another thing, if you're a mother who's dying from a pregnancy complication, this administration wants to let you die. That was proven when the DOJ backed out of a Biden administration lawsuit against Idaho over emergency abortions. Now that the case has been dropped, Idaho hospitals will have to go back to airlifting women out of state who need medical care. Dystopian nightmare shit, bruh. Speaking of nightmares, they're also backing away from requiring reform for police departments that have already been found to have records of misconduct. They can just keep beating us, killing us, and harassing us unfairly. Journalists, aka people who uncover the truth and put themselves at risk to do so, no longer have their phone records or testimony protected. AG Bondi revoked that policy back in April. For as long as I've been on YouTube, I've stressed that I don't qualify as a journalist and tried to shine that light on those who actually write the articles I use as sources. That being said, my recent foray into traveling to these places and interviewing my primary sources was a wrap on all that. I am a journalist now. This policy directly affects people like me who try to speak truth to power, and it's disturbing. This next one requires me to read a little bit more, so I hope y'all are still with me. Trump wants to get rid of the weaponization of the government against political enemies, which is the most hilarious thing I've heard in a while. That's literally his favorite thing to do, as I've been explaining this entire video. Quote, the American people have witnessed the previous administration engage in a systematic campaign against its perceived political opponents, weaponizing the legal force of numerous federal law enforcement agencies and the intelligence community against those perceived political opponents in the form of investigations, prosecutions, civil enforcement actions, and other related actions. These actions appear oriented more towards inflicting political pain than towards pursuing actual justice or legitimate governmental objectives. End quote. They only want to look at the 4 years before his presidency for evidence of these transgressions, while ignoring everything he's done this year that's clearly about revenge against liberal enemies. Yo, we've allowed the most hypocritical, childish, savagely vindictive person of all time to get into power. Twice. I can't say I have much faith left in this country. Every time I think about it, I get pissed off all over again. On day one, Bondi instructed the DOJ to investigate, eliminate, and penalize private companies and universities with illegal DEI programs. What do they define as illegal? All of it. Never mind the DEI actually helps white women. They're willing to throw y'all under the bus too. Project 2025 literally pushes that the civil rights departments should fight to get rid of discrimination. DEI is discrimination to them because it doesn't prioritize white men. They're redefining words. DEI was an acknowledgement by certain companies and society at large that inequity exists. Trump came in with an army of other white nationalists in charge of virtually every agency and delivered every Fox News viewer's wet dream. An irrational, pointless attack on anything that helps create a more diverse world and workplace. Sanctuary cities don't get federal funding for a number of things anymore. Simple possession of small quantities of drugs is back on the table for prosecution after Biden pardoned thousands of nonviolent drug offenders. They want to reassign the enforcement of voting rights from the Civil Rights Division to the Criminal Division. We got to move on. The Department of Labor.
Labor Secretary Lori Chavez DeRemer had more to say beyond updating the president on her department, and she didn't stop there.
Thank you for what you are doing with your agents on ICE, and thank you for the prosecution that I hope you will come to Portland, Oregon.
Equal opportunity employment is out of here as of January 24th. It was one of the earliest moves he made, but then again, they made it rain executive orders, so it can be hard to keep track. Similar to other agencies, Trump fired the heads of the Equal Employment Opportunity Council and National Labor Relations Board 4 days later. Overtime pay got expanded under Biden for 4 million Americans, and it's also out of here under Trump. More specifically, The exemption rules snap back to their previous state under Trump's first term, already pretty restrictive. Question for all the federal employees watching this. By the way, congratulations for getting a paycheck again. Y'all ever felt the urge to tell everybody at work about your religious preferences, promote it to them, display your little Jesus or Buddha figurines, or pray in large groups in the middle of the office? The Office of Personnel Management issued a memo this summer that allows all that shit. Director Scott Kapoor literally said employees should be allowed to express their religious beliefs, quote, to the greatest extent possible. As I've already addressed several times on my other channel, religion is the source of most of the world's worst problems. I've been in a situation where my coworkers' religious beliefs were shoved in my face, and I'll just say that sounds like hell. Based on what we already know from previous parts, obviously no employer needs to provide accommodations for abortion care now. They've made it harder for employees to unionize by getting rid of card check. Hold up for a second. I could have just blown by card check without explaining it further, but I won't do that to y'all. It's kind of important. Back in 1950, a full third of the workforce was unionized. As of 2013, that dropped to 12%. Card check, also known as the Employee Free Choice Act, is the thing that would help to improve that. The traditional model for workers to successfully unionize is to get 30% of their coworkers to sign cards agreeing to hold a secret ballot election. In that election, the company and union get to make their case. Then a vote is held. Majority wins. This is what card check does. You get to skip the election entirely. 50% of your coworkers sign cards, and you win. Obviously, this makes unionizing incredibly easy in comparison to this outdated 1984-ass election process that exposes your entire union to manipulation and indirect coercion. The Trump administration is in progress with implementing this already. The elections are typically supervised by a federal authority called the Federal Mediation and Conciliation Service. That organization isn't helping with card checks anymore. Project 2025 wants them to give employers more powers to bust unions too. We'll see if they follow through. They probably will. If y'all didn't know, Trump is notoriously fond of breaking the terms of contracts and for breaking his own promises. He did it with casinos and hotels with his name on the front, resulting in hundreds of workers not being paid to this day.
Even as his companies did poorly, Mr. Trump did well. He put up little of his own money, shifted personal debts to the casinos, and collected millions of dollars in salary, bonuses, and other payments. The burden of his failures fell on investors and others who would bet on his business acumen.
That includes carpenters, painters, dishwashers, and his own lawyers. There's been at least 3,500 lawsuits. Y'all not only voted for a serial sexual abuser and idiotic Nepo baby TV persona, you voted for one of the biggest thieves in the history of corporate America. And that's saying something. Senator Warren read off 100 promises he's broken so far as president, and his administration is doing the same thing to the Office of Federal Contract Compliance Programs, since they're planning to eliminate it by next year. This is also going to negatively affect affirmative action, because of course it will. This is fun, right? Y'all having fun yet? Courts are fighting him on banning DEI across the entire department. But I don't think that one's a surprise to anybody who's been paying attention to the other agencies on this list. By the way, Project 2025 wants to allow employers to discriminate based on religion. Trump's goons haven't gotten there yet, but judging by their track record and the things they've said, it's probably going to happen. The Department of State.
Our advice to everybody is if you have a ticket for any of the games, you need to apply if you haven't done so as soon as possible. Don't wait till the last minute. Your ticket is not a visa. It doesn't guarantee admission to the U.S. It guarantees you an expedited appointment.
Y'all heard of the World Health Organization, right? If not, it's a little UN agency that's not really little, where a bunch of countries pool resources to help respond to disasters and health emergencies all over the world. First day, Trump took us out of it. The Human Rights Council does exactly what you think they do. It's 47 countries strong and protects human rights by addressing violations and making recommendations as a team. Fact-finding is a big part of what they do too. Now, who isn't a fan of facts, doesn't care about human rights, and wants to create an environment where the US can more easily violate those human rights? You guessed it, because you're smart. Trump took us out of that council too. Funding for the UN Relief and Works Agency? Withdrawn. Foreign aid spending clawed back to the tune of $4 billion, but being partially blocked in the courts. We already covered how US aid got gutted in a previous part, leaving millions of people stranded. We're leaving the UN Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, or UNESCO, in December of next year, because white supremacists are allergic to all three of those words. It's illegal to fly a rainbow flag or Black Lives Matter flag anywhere near a US embassy. I didn't necessarily think about doing that before, but we definitely can't do it now. You can promote your religion that hates both of those groups, though. Did y'all hear about the white South Africans they were shipping in here? Trump put a record low cap on refugees, and specifically wants to prioritize Afrikaners, aka Elons. It isn't Africans they have beef with, it's just the black ones. They're not even hiding it. Last point I want to make in this section is about Saudi Arabia, aka Desert Disneyland, with slave labor. Project 2025 is clear that they want to strengthen relations with the Saudis. Judging by everything we've covered so far, that's already happening. If there's anything we know about fascist authoritarian governments, is that they stick together. For those who claim I have a bunch of conjecture in my videos, here's the proof. He met with Mohammed bin Salman in the White House on the 18th, this week, and claimed the ruler of the Saudi kingdom knew nothing about the killing of Jamal Khashoggi, a journalist who the FBI clearly stated was captured or murdered at the express command of bin Salman at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. I hope y'all remember that story. It was super tragic.
And Your Royal Highness, the U.S. intelligence concluded that you orchestrated the brutal murder of a journalist. 9/11 families are furious that you are here in the Oval Office. Why should Americans trust you? And the same to you, Mr. President.
Now, who are you with?
I'm with ABC News, sir.
You're with who?
ABC News, sir.
Fake news, ABC fake news, one of the
But the
worst,
question is
one of the
legitimate,
worst
sir.
in the business. But I'll answer your question. As far as this gentleman is concerned, he's done a phenomenal job. You're mentioning somebody that was extremely controversial. A lot of people didn't like that gentleman that you're talking about. Whether you like him or didn't like him, things happen. But he knew nothing about it, and we can leave it at that. You don't have to embarrass our guest by asking a question like that.
About the journalists, it's really painful to hear, anyone that been losing his life for, no real purpose or not in a legal way, and it's been painful for us in Saudi Arabia. We've did all the right steps of investigation, etc., in Saudi Arabia, and we've improved our system to be sure that nothing happened like that.
Trump has publicly praised and has relationships with Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin, has claimed that undocumented immigrants poison the blood of our country. Almost a word-for-word Hitler quote. He sends shout-outs to Tayyip Erdogan from Turkey, Viktor Orban from Hungary, and China's Xi Jinping for being strong leaders and very intelligent. Dude is a bully who worships more intelligent bullies. The oppression of workers' rights and women's autonomy in Saudi Arabia has been almost unmatched globally, and the sweeping away of some of their more severe social norms by bin Salman doesn't get anywhere near changing that. Here's the most important part of this man hosting dictators at the White House and cutting billion-dollar deals to sell them jets and shit. It condones their actions. According to several experts and the sources I'm putting on screen, the UAE is directly tied to the supply of weapons fueling the genocide in South Sudan by the RSF, where the pools of civilian blood have been visible from space, where men, women, and children are being gunned down door to door, rounded up and machine gunned with nowhere to escape to. And we're selling them fighter jets. As of May of this year, old boy announced that from Abu Dhabi, bringing our total investments with the UAE to $2 trillion. What else do you need to see? Nothing short of direct evidence of him being a PDF in the soon-to-be-released Epstein files could get this man the fuck out of here. And when the files drop in full, without heavy redactions, I'll be back to see if it worked. If it does, I might not need to drop part 4. I'm really exhausted, but not nearly as exhausted as all the people all over the world who are directly impacted in unseen ways by this administration and the programs they've cut, the agencies they've gutted. I'm making this series to bring it all to light in a way that's organized and clear for y'all to understand, in a way that you can reference with sources in the description and on screen to make sure that you're informed. I think we need to keep up with this stuff, as depressing as it is. And I appreciate y'all sticking with me so far. Got more parts to go, but we're coming close to the final stretch. More of this stuff is getting pushed through every second of every day. And our number one responsibility as those on the progressive side of the spectrum is to hold them accountable. We can't just quietly let it happen. That time is over. This is no passive conflict that we're in right now. It is a war. At least they think it is. That's why I talk about political stuff. That's why I'm on this tear of trying to highlight groups that suppress underrepresented people and politicians that make things happen that suppress underrepresented people. If we don't speak up, it's going to keep happening. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Catch you next time.
Senator Rubio built his political brand on the cause of freedom and dignity. You condemned autocrats in Caracas, Havana, and Beijing for silencing dissent. But Secretary Rubio? He looks the other way when strongmen commit similar abuses. Secretary Rubio even defied a Supreme Court order to facilitate the return of a wrongly detained spouse of an American citizen. And when Senator Rubio became the first Hispanic American to serve as Secretary of State, he made sure to pull the ladder up behind him. In the name of dismantling efforts to making hiring and promotion fair, as you call it, wokeness, you have unlawfully dismantled programs designed to address decades of historical exclusion.